We're judging the world and saying what sucks. We're reviews versus the world.
Emily, you just gave me the opportunity to bring back nipple pants.
Nipple pants. Oh yeah. Anytime Curtis and I talk about The Last Jedi, which is not a lot because we didn't really love it, that gets brought up at least once.
I think that we may have recorded an entire podcast about that. But that's not what we're here for, guys. We're here for romance.
Me and
romance makes me uncomfortable.
Oh, that's not what this is about? Never mind.
Steven, you are engaged.
Don't remind me. Also,
don't be stressed, bro. It's gonna be
definitely
great.
hoping that Brittany does not listen to this. I love you, honey. I'm very excited to get married.
We get listens. They love us. You know, and stuff. So, of course, you know, it is February, which means that love is in the air. But before we get into all of that lovey-dovey romance relationship stuff, let's find out what we've been into for the past few weeks since the last time that we've recorded. And I'm going to go ahead and start with Steven. What have you been into?
I don't know. Oh my gosh, I'm on the spot. This is awkward.
No.
So...
Under pressure.
Probably the thing that I've been doing the most is playing a video game on my Switch called Iconoclasts.
Oh, I've heard good things.
It's pretty decent. It's kind of a Metroidvania-light sort of game. It's not terribly complicated. It doesn't seem to have a lot of snaking paths in it quite yet. I'm still pretty early in the game. What's pretty remarkable about it is that it's all the work of one guy.
I love it when there are games like that.
Yeah, it doesn't happen very often. And so the plotting isn't necessarily the best. The gameplay is fine. Some of the controls are a little counterintuitive. This game has some very strong character work, which is keeping me interested in it for... I'm definitely going to keep powering through it to see where I can go with it, because there are just some fantastic character designs. There's a group of antagonists that are all, named after different types of... or different colors. There's a character called Chrome, who that's not technically a color, but they all have very distinct personalities, and it's pretty engaging to experience those. So Iconoclasts, strongly recommended. I have also been... I don't talk about this one as much on the podcast, but I'm a Magic the Gathering guy. A recent new expansion to the game has me pretty excited. It's called Ravnica Allegiance. Now, with Magic, the different sets take place over the course of different worlds. This is the third time that the set has gone back to Ravnica, which is indicative of how popular this particular setting is. It's a city where there are a bunch of different guilds, and each of the guilds has a different focus. So there's a corrupt church that this time around, all of its people, when they die, they turn into little ghost tokens that you get to fight with. There's a mad scientist lab that makes their guys stronger with, weird augmentations. There's a freaking evil carnival that is just full of crazy people that like to hurt. And so, just building around with these new sets and the new cards has been a lot of fun. I've got a couple of new decks out of the deal that I'm very, very excited about. And then, lastly, I've been reading a book. I really wanted to get back into reading in a big way, and not just comic books, which is where I spend most of my time, but actual real books with words and stuff. Right. And at the recommendation of a friend, I picked up this memoir called When Breath Becomes Air. It's the story of a man, and this is a true story, this is his memoir, who was studying to be a neurosurgeon. He was a practicing neurosurgeon, and he was diagnosed with basically, I think it was a spinal cancer. And so this book is his meditation about what it is like to be a physician whose job it is to basically fight death, and how you deal with the inevitability of your own death in that process. It's a pretty gorgeous book. I've read a few medical memoir type books. I've read a lot of Atul Gawande. I've read Oliver Sacks, which, if you know the genre, those are pretty big names. And honestly, I think this guy, whose name is Paul Kalanithi, he might be the best writer of the bunch that I've read, at least. And I'm really loving his book. It's kind of a spoiler, but not really. He died somewhere in the process of getting the book published.
Wow.
I think he might have actually finished the draft before he died, but I'm not positive about that. I haven't gotten to the end yet. I'm really enjoying this book. Anybody who is interested in this sort of like medical literature probably should check out When Breath Becomes Air. It's beautiful.
I've listened to a couple of episodes of Sawbones. Does that count?
It's almost the same thing.
Well, cool. Emily, what have you been into?
Well, like every other day of my life, like I mentioned, maybe this will make it into the thing, or maybe it will have been before we deleted our earlier audio. I watch a lot of documentaries and stuff on Netflix with my husband. A lot of it revolves around serial killers, kidnappings, cults, because I have nothing more positive to think about in my life, I guess.
Oh my gosh.
But I balance it out with scrolling through Facebook and loving pictures of dogs. Because you can't just like them. That's like the worst thing you could do. These dogs need your love. I don't care if they're getting it from their owners or whatever. It's not about that. It's about me showing my love for them through heart emoticons, okay?
Oh, gosh. So, what specific documentaries have you enjoyed? Or
we were watching one just now before I went upstairs to start recording with you guys. Inside the Criminal Mind or something like that. I don't remember what that one's called, but that was pretty good. We watched the Ted Bundy one. We watched this other one that I can't... Oh, I'm going to have to find the title of it. I don't remember what it was. It was about this girl
explain it to me, because I probably watched it.
It was about this girl who... There was this person who became their family friend, and he ended up kidnapping her and convincing her that, like, they needed to be together in some capacity. And, like, the parents are the most ridiculous pieces of garbage that I can't even talk about it because I'm still floored about their behavior in that whole situation. I'll send you guys links, and maybe I'll address it in a later podcast just so everybody else can get on that. Because, anyway. But, more importantly, I watched season 3 of One Day at a Time. And it was really good. But yeah, season 3 of One Day at a Time. Definitely do that, and definitely join groups on Facebook where they post pictures of dogs. Definitely do that. Because literally that's my life and I love it.
Very nice. Alright, and for me, it might shock you guys to know that I have been playing video games.
Okay, you have got to stop flooring me like this, Brady.
I know. But before I get into that, I do, since you're talking about documentaries on Netflix, I do want to call out Fyre.
See, that comes up on my feed a lot, and I just haven't watched it.
So, got a lot of Twitter buzz around it right now, too.
Yeah.
There's 2 different documentaries. There's Fyre, and that's spelled Fyre, and then on Hulu, they have their own called Fyre Fraud. So they're both documentaries about the same thing, and and both of these documentaries were released like a week apart. They kind of tackle things a little bit differently. Andy King, one of the people who is actually like in charge of the Fyre Festival, is heavily involved in the Netflix one, which seems a little bit disingenuous.
Yeah.
But I think that one's probably edited a little bit better. But then again, the Hulu one, the Fyre Fraud, it delves into the dangers of social media more from examples of what happened with the Fyre Festival. Now, just in case you don't know what the Fyre Festival is. So basically, there's this guy who he started this app that was meant for booking talent, like hip-hop artists and the like, to come to a party. Because he found that it was so hard to do that. And so the app was called Fyre, F-Y-R-E, Fyre. And from that, he actually partnered with Ja Rule and worked really closely with him. And they went and supposedly bought an island in the Bahamas where they were going to have a big old music festival and only let 10,000 people come to see it and just make it a big party. And to advertise it, they brought a bunch of supermodels down to the Bahamas and just did photo shoots of them partying, and then paid a bunch of other supermodels to start just posting orange on their Instagram page, just like an orange thing, and then like a hashtag Fyre Festival or something like that to start building buzz. But basically, it turns out that this guy had no idea what he was doing. He was really defrauding everyone. He was lying about everything, every step of the way, lying to his own employees, lying to everyone. And when people actually got there to the festival, they found that instead of villas that they were promised, they were sleeping on mattresses that had been soaked in rain in these crappy makeshift tents. There was like zero food. None of the bands showed up. And who knows how many of those bands that were advertised were actually real, because it goes into a little bit of like this guy who actually is an agent for one of the bands going, I had not heard of this, when all of a sudden their name popped up on this ad. And, you know, it really goes into depth into a lot of that, and just how this guy was such a fraudster. And just the horrible things that happened at the Fyre Festival, because, you know, it was a bunch of people basically stranded on an island. But, you know, there wasn't Ginger or the skipper to, you know, help lighten the mood.
Right.
Okay, Gilligan's Island reference in 2019.
You're welcome.
Way to relate to the hashtag kids.
Hey,
Oh my God.
I said the word Instagram.
Keeping it hip with the kids, Brady.
Touche.
I
Well,
found out what that title was, by the way. It's Abducted in Plain Sight.
Ah.
That's all.
Other than that, I have been doing video games. I've also been playing Wargroove. It is a great game. It's basically Advanced Wars, is really what it is. Except for it has things like, you have this unit called War Pups, and they're just a bunch of dogs, and they're really adorable in their armor, because this is all set medieval times. And all of the other units, you know, when they die, like, you see ghosts come out of them and they actually die, but the dogs just run away. And it's so cute. And there's even a commander, Caesar, who is a dog, and he's great because whenever you attack with him, he just has a couple of guys come out in front of him with crossbows while he's chasing his tail and being adorable. It's great. So Wargroove, I definitely recommend it. Also, on Monday this week, out of nowhere, Respawn, who is the company that made the games like Titanfall, and they were founded and are run by the people who made the original Modern Warfare, Call of Duty Modern Warfare. So it's a pretty big studio. And they released a Battle Royale game, a la, you know, your Fortnite or your PUBG, and called Apex Legends. And I love it. The thing about this one is it actually moves quickly. You choose a character. Each character has special abilities. Like, you can be this robot who's absolutely adorable, and he can shoot zip lines to get in places, or like a hook shot thing. And just the movement feels really good. And it's also, you can only play it in groups of 3, and it has this pinging system so that you can just tap R1 and then, like, show, hey, there's somebody over there, there's an enemy over there, watch out for that. or I'm going to go this way, or hey, there's some help over here if you need it, things like that. And it's a lot of fun. I definitely recommend it, and it's free. It's free to play on the PS4. So definitely get it. It's a lot of fun. And guys, I've been putting this discussion off for a long time.
Uh-oh.
But it's time that we delve into it.
You're adopted.
Let's talk about Kingdom Hearts.
Oh gosh, I'd rather you be adopted.
So here's the thing. Kingdom Hearts 3 released. And I remember enjoying Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 quite a bit. I played a little bit of the 3DS one, the Dream Drop Distance. And then didn't play the other 10 million games that they have in the series that are numbered and have instead weird titles like 358 Days Over 2 because Japan.
Because Japan.
And it... So, here's the thing. I actually ended up purchasing, instead of just starting off with Kingdom Hearts 3, because I knew that my kids would be into it, especially my oldest, Skylar. He's very much in a Disney state of mind lately. Like, that's his obsession, especially Disney princesses. And so, I wanted my kids to play it too, but I can't just start them out on Kingdom Hearts 3. So I got the full package that has all 12 or 13 games in it for the PS4. And so I've been having Emma start off with Kingdom Hearts 1. Well, I just jumped straight to Kingdom Hearts 3 because I played 1 and 2. And it's great watching them, discover this world that I discovered when I was younger, and it's adorable, and I just love seeing the joy that they have. And then I start playing Kingdom Hearts 3. Here's the thing about Kingdom Hearts.
There's only one?
So, it's pretty much just a well-known, meme-worthy type conversation that Kingdom Hearts story is awful and convoluted in every way. Like, there's tons of videos that try to explain the story of Kingdom Hearts. It's this thing that was supposed to simply be Final Fantasy meets Disney.
I love how you say simply, like that is an easy feat to pull off.
Well, it's a lot easier than, this person is really 3 different people who lived in the same heart, and then they got separated out in the data, and then this version of him was taken over by this person and then became evil, but then he turned it around and became this person, and in the meantime, but that was only in a dream, but was it really a dream, or was it an alternate reality created by this organization? I mean, it's ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous.
Do you know what else is ridiculous, though, Flanagan? Cloud Strife meets Mickey Mouse.
That's true. That is...
I'm just saying!
That is pretty darn ridiculous. So, the story is even worse than you think. It makes so little sense, and I swear that the only 2 words that anybody in the story knows how to say, other than lots of weird random names that seem just like somebody had a bunch of darts and blindly threw them at a wall with letters on it, and it's like, okay, I guess that's the name now. It's also just, oh gosh. Other than that, they just say darkness and hearts over and over and over. I found myself skipping a lot of cutscenes unless there's a Disney character other than Donald or Goofy there, in which case I'm like, okay, fine. I'll watch this because, hey, it's Woody and Buzz. And you gotta love that. The combat in Kingdom Hearts is really bad. It's really bad. It really is just mashing X as much as you can. And then occasionally, if you want, you can cast spells, but there's no real reason to, and just tapping X is all that you need. And then you build up these meters where in Kingdom Hearts 3, you push triangle then, and it will do this it will do this big old special move that, you know, might be based on a Disneyland ride, or might be, oh, now I'm riding around in a chariot and throwing lightning bolts at people, but I'm not going to have a good view while I'm riding the chariot so that I know where I'm going. No, it's going to do like an over-the-shoulder, but from the front view of riding in this chariot. So I'm just going to mash X a bunch of times until it will let me finish the move off. And a lot of these moves just come from... One of my favorite YouTube channels of late has been Girlfriend Reviews. I don't know if any of you are familiar.
My roommate's quite fond of it.
Yeah, it's reviews of not what it's like to play these games, but what it's like to be dating the person who's playing the games. And she likes to use a phrase that I think is perfect for Kingdom Hearts, and that is diarrhea Christmas lights. Because that's what all the special moves look like. The level design is bad. It is so bad. The sound mixing is awful. It's like there's a scene in the Frozen world, you know, going back to Frozen, where you have Let It Go happening. And while Let It Go is happening, there's dialogue over it of, I think it's Anna or Elsa telling a story, but both of them are like full volume, and so you can't hear either the song or the exposition, and it's bad, and I don't know how these decisions got made. But here's the thing. All of these complaints, all of them, take that and just throw it away because I'm still somehow having fun with it. And maybe it's the fact that, hey, I would need to cook some food, and, oh, what's that? I have Remy from Ratatouille on top of my head, guiding my actions as I cut the onions. You know, and you just can't discount how great that feels and how much just love is put into all of the Disney crossovers. There's like zero Final Fantasy in it anymore, which is really annoying. Instead, it's their own Organization 13 bad story, awful characters, who the hell cares crap.
Well, to be fair, there wasn't really any reason for the Final Fantasy to be in there to begin with.
Yeah, there really wasn't.
Other than to have Lance Bass as Sephiroth as a bonus boss.
Yeah, that's true.
True that.
But, yeah, so Kingdom Hearts, it's a series that I inexplicably really enjoy. And Kingdom Hearts 3 is no different. And with that, we are actually going to go ahead and we're going to take a little break before we start talking about some relationships. Hopefully John will be joining us for the second half and we can find out exactly what he's been up to as well. But until then, we'll be back in like 15 seconds for you guys.
I'm willing to bet that most of our audience has watched The Simpsons.
Yeah.
What's a diorama?
Like, I'm the weird one because I haven't watched it.
You haven't watched The Simpsons at all?
I mean, other than what we did for that one episode, no. Not really.
Steven, you are an enigma wrapped in a puzzle wrapped... Oh, I did it wrong. Well, you're weird, man. Okay, wait. Okay, I apologize for my tardiness. I realize I missed the first part, but I am ready with my ship. Okay. I chose.
Are you ready with what you've been into?
Hold on. I chose Serenity, which is a Firefly class transport ship. It's actually a mid-bulk transport, standard Radeon accelerator core.
Okay, but you didn't
What?
choose like the Enterprise.
The Enterprise.
Whatever.
The Enterprise.
Guess
the
it's good we didn't
Enterprise.
choose the same thing.
Oh, yeah. If I wanted to have, like, holodeck fun, then I'd choose the Enterprise. But I want something that's going to, like, you know...
I'm pretty sure the holodeck just exists to kill people.
First Contact. Killed
Maybe.
the Borgs with a Tommy gun. I think I skimmed the notes for this episode. When you guys said ships, it's just now... it's now coming to me. Uh-oh.
Well, John, I'll give you a little bit more time to think about that while you're also talking and telling us what you've been into.
Well, I spent last weekend at my sister's house. One of my sisters flew into town. We had a great old time. We saw the disappointing Super Bowl all together. It was a terrible. I feel bad for anyone who introduced a friend to the Super Bowl this year. Like, hey, this is the best. There's funny commercials. There's a great, halftime musical act. And, man, these are the best two teams that you're going to see this year. And it's going to be the height of action. Oh, my gosh, it was the worst. But,
Yeah.
I made enough salsa that you could fill a jacuzzi. So it wasn't a total loss. So, but
that Endgame trailer, though.
I had a friend
I
that
didn't
posted
see it.
something
I
along the
didn't. I
lines
put
of,
my
like,
head in my shirt and I hummed the national anthem, and didn't see there was like that dun dun. That first sound that a movie trailer's coming. I was gone.
It was literally all downhill from there. It's telling that the best part of the Super Bowl halftime show was the recording of Drake in Psycho mode.
No, the best thing about the halftime show were the memes that we have seen since
Michael
then
Scott covered in
people,
office tattoos.
Of people just writing their state's name on their bellies.
Holy crap.
It's my favorite thing in the world now.
No. The only thing I've been into besides that, because we haven't had a lot of time since the recording, I left my razor at my sister's house, so I accidentally have been growing facial hair this week. Because it's like a subscription thing, right? And I refused to get a whole new handle because I bought the handle so I would only have to replace the blades. And so on principle, I'm growing a really gross goatee beard thing. And I'm looking forward to shaving it tomorrow when I see them and can get my razor back.
I love that it doesn't even warrant like a better description. It's just
If
this
you saw
gross,
it, you wouldn't
weird
have any other
goatee
words
thing.
to describe it except that. You'd say, ugh.
I don't know. I could see this as an opportunity to exercise my creative writing chops. Like, oh man, why did you French kiss a ferret after eating a sticky ice cream pop?
That's good. Can I get one more? Keep going. You're on a good track here. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, hey, did you forget to wipe your mouth after drinking chocolate milk and then letting your nose run into it?
Okay, I think we've taken a step back. Okay. Can I get...
Oh.
We were looking for something
Uncle Joey
like,
style. Cut
hey,
it
did
out.
you get a free van with that mustache? That's what we were going for. At least, if you had seen the mustache in person, that's what you would have remarked. But,
oh man, if you take that mustache to Ed's garage down the street, you get a free air spray paint job on the side of your van.
And we have mined that for all that it's worth.
Hey, every good comic bombs once in a while.
Alright, so obviously the reason why we are getting together this month is, love is in the air, and love is also pretty much in every form of entertainment that you can possibly have. And so I wanted to talk about relationships, and what makes a good relationship, what makes a bad relationship. Now this is specifically, in entertainment. Like, what is something that you look for in a relationship? And you know what? Let's start off there. What is something that you look for in a relationship in your media?
believability. Yep.
Yeah, believable chemistry. Not any kind of forced chemistry. It has to be like, you totally would buy that these people would, get down to business. You know what I mean?
Right. Oh, definitely. So somebody who's definitely trying to go for someone out of their league, but gets it.
That kind of takes away from believability for me, because you see someone, I don't want to say King of Queens, but here we are. There's too much of that on TV where it's like, yeah, but no.
I like to believe that those things happen more often than...
Well,
What
I
is-
mean,
Well, it can happen all the time if you have a live studio audience going, Oh,
Okay, but wait, hold on. You guys don't have that in your lives every day? Like, that's not a daily thing, or? Speaking of weird sounds, my husband and I, we've watched Friends a couple times through together, and suddenly, I don't know what happened, but every time something goes wrong, we're suddenly saying, oh no, like people say all the time. No.
So I think that one thing that I look for is you want, and this goes along with believable chemistry, you want them to actually, like, respect and care about each other. Like,
Yeah.
like, you know,
Sure.
I don't want to keep on piling on 90s sitcoms, but it's not just 90s sitcoms, because, I mean, look at every single episode of Modern Family, where all that they're doing is constantly disrespecting each other, lying to each other, hiding things from each other. Oh, I hate that. Oh, I hate that.
Yeah, and there's one other thing that I've kind of been looking for more recently in fictional relationships that I like. It's kind of along those same lines, at least in my head it is, that in addition to there being respect, like, between the couple, I also actually kind of want to see a lot of respect during the courtship phase, and I want to see something that shows a healthy dynamic. Like, every relationship has its fair share of teasing and ribbing, and that's fine. I don't have any complaints about that, necessarily. But I want to see that the partner's agency is respected at all times. I want to see, and this actually, I think, poses a real problem for writers of fictional couples, because people want drama, people want intensity, people want sort of like the excitement.
Yeah.
But when you're writing a couple, you're not actually writing two characters, you're almost writing three. There's each individual and then their unity, their relationship. And I think a lot of fiction writers struggle once they get to the happily ever after point, which is frankly where most people are in their lives. I shouldn't say most people, but like, that's this incredibly relatable aspect of a fictional character. Their, romantic relationship with another human being, long-term partnership. A lot of people, I think, can relate to that, and that's a point where a lot of fiction writers just seem to give up.
Oh, yeah.
And that frustrates me a lot, too. So, I mean, I guess I threw in a lot of thoughts there, but, like, respecting the agency of each partner and having a relationship where the relationship itself is actually kind of a living thing. Not always necessarily a healthy thing, because there is some catharsis in watching really unhealthy relationships sometimes. But, where there is consideration taken for making sure that the couple acts like a couple.
So I'm going to talk for a minute about something that I call the Jim and Pam problem.
Oh dear. I hope nobody picks Jim and Pam for today.
I hope that you didn't. But Jim and Pam is it's a relationship that all of us know, because The Office hit it, and hit it huge, and a lot of the appeal to a lot of people was that relationship between Jim and Pam, because they, especially in those beginning stages, has quite a few of those elements. But what I hate is when writers get to the point where they feel like they feel like they're stagnant. And so in the case of The Office with Jim and Pam, the writers tried to go and create other relationships that, and try to get people to care about them the way that they did with Jim and Pam. But sorry, I don't care about Andy and Aaron. No one cared about Andy and Aaron. I didn't care about Dwight and Angela. Nobody cared about Dwight and Angela.
Okay, you are so beyond the Valentine. BT dubs.
Even with the things that those other relationships got right, they just couldn't recreate the magic that you have with Jim and Pam. And so what do? They go back to that Jim and Pam relationship, and they try to throw weird curveballs at it that narratively and to their characters don't make sense at all, and causing unnecessary drama again, when it's like, these characters were built up to truly love and respect each other. And yeah, I know that people have rocky points in their marriages. People, have points when they don't communicate well, etc. But the way that the characters acted in the last few seasons just seemed like the writers spinning wheels, trying to create something new with that same relationship. And that's what I mean with the Jim and Pam problem. And it is something you see all over the place. It's the dog finally catches the car and has no idea what to do with it.
See, this is where I will...
Who wants to...
Steven.
Oh, I was going to say, who wants to hear my hot take on Jim and Pam?
Ooh, I bet it's like mine.
I am incredibly uncomfortable with the Jim-Pam relationship.
Is it because, straight up,
Yeah.
she's engaged to another person, and he decides to, I'm just going to tell
In
her
the
how I
words
feel
of,
anyway,
Michael
which is fine,
Scott-
do whatever. I'm just going to go into the office and make out with her.
In the words of
I'm
Michael
just
Scott,
gonna,
BFE, engaged ain't married. Bruce Cruz is one of the best episodes ever, guys.
Don't get me wrong. Here. Don't get me wrong. When that happened in the show, there was a part of me that's like, oh my gosh, it's finally happening. But now that I'm a married person, it's one of those things.
It kind of bugs
That's
you.
on Roy. They were engaged.
It bugs me a lot.
Yeah, I mean,
Something like
I
that.
get where you're coming from, Steven, but Roy's to blame.
Yeah. The thing that really gets me about it is that there is a level of, I think, unhealthy fantasy in the way the Jim-Pam relationship plays out.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's the thing in particular that gets to me. Like, and I used to love The Office, and I used to love The Office specifically because of Jim and Pam. And so, like, there was just one point I remember watching The Office, and I think I was a little sick that day, and watching a television show when I'm sick actually tends to ruin the show, which is why nowadays when I'm sick I only watch things like professional wrestling.
That's fair.
There was this moment, and I don't even know that I could point to a specific moment, where I'm watching the Jim-Pam relationship unfold sometime in the middle of season 3, where it's like, Jim is the nice guy who is the friend who is just always there for the girl, and he just holds out trust and holds out hope that if he's just nice enough over time that she will eventually see the error of her ways and leave the one that she's with and go to the nice guy. And that strikes me as being an unhealthy way for an individual to lead their lives.
Mm-hmm.
To hold out hope that
absolutely.
this other person is going to wake up and notice how good a person you are. When you should just be out there making yourself the best version of yourself that you can be, and not getting hung up on things that either due to social convention or to the other person's commitment or their lack of interest in you. Like, don't hang your entire life on somebody else like that. Unless it's something that you both have already agreed to do. Like, put yourself out there. Hey, I'm interested in you. I like you. Then, if it doesn't work out, move on. And the show, of course, as a work of fiction, contrives ways where, Jim tries to move on and it doesn't work out, and so he goes back and then, true love conquers all. And I get that it's fiction. But I think it's a fiction that is potentially kind of damaging, especially when you see, like, how so many people weaponize the concept of being the nice guy to justify misogynistic behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the moment. It was making that line, basically drawing a line between Jim Halpert and the incel community, that I was like, done! No more The Office ever again.
Yeah.
Oh,
Which is, again, probably not fair.
Yeah. I don't have many positive things to say about the show How I Met Your Mother.
I have nothing positive to say about
But
that
one
show.
thing that I do
Zero.
have to say is there's an episode that goes into the dynamic of, big romantic gestures and basically how they are received by the person is the difference between being a beloved romance story or just being really, really, really messed up. And I feel like a lot of the romance that we are fed in media goes into that direction that you're like, if somebody ever actually did any of this, that's like serial killer behavior. That is not okay. That's going back into those Ted Bundy, that Ted Bundy documentary that we were talking about.
His name is Mosby. It's Ted Mosby.
Well, it always, for me, calls back to the Twilight books and movies, right? Okay. There's that part where he shows up in her room, and he's like, I like to watch you sleep. I find it fascinating. And as a teenage girl, maybe, or even a preteen girl, maybe you're kind of like, oh, he's so mysterious.
He's literally
but as
a
an adult,
monster
it's
predator.
Like, get out my house. It's not even that he's a predator. It's that he's a creep. Like, I mean, monster, predator. That is absolutely what he is. But you know what I'm saying? It's like there's a whole different like outlook on it every time I watch those movies because I watch them. Ugh. I love them. They're trashy and I love them. And I'll get to that point and I'm like, why are you so...
So I think that really a lot of what we're saying comes down to good relationships in media stand up to review several years later. Which Jim and Pam does not.
See, this is why I stopped watching The Office when he proposed. I've seen little to nothing beyond that. I did see that great episode when I watched on YouTube, there was a supercut of a bunch of different pranks that he had done, that Jim had done to Dwight over the years. And I think some of them took place after I fell off the show. And so the episode where Randall Park comes in as Jim... That was a riot. That was absolutely hysterical. And like when he grabs the family photo frame and Randall Park's already in there, and he just was like, whoa, he just you can see his whole world just imploding around, So that was good.
It's so great that you don't see race, Dwight.
Way to go, Dwight.
That's one of my very favorite.
Because really, I worry about that because I think about that. I'm like, yeah, we all root for Jim. Jim is not a nice guy to Dwight. Like Dwight definitely sucks, but he's just mean. So
it's pretty excessive, and he doesn't put a lot of effort into anything else in his life,
including his
says something to his character. I think. Correct. It's like, how little effort can I get to get this girl to date me? Like, how little effort can I give? I don't know. I love The Office, and I love them, but I have my opinions about it, always.
Oh, definitely. All right, so we've gone over a lot of criteria of what we think really can make a good relationship, what makes a bad relationship, but I want to see, based on everything that we've talked about, all of us chose a ship. We chose a relationship that we wanted to talk about today. And so we're going to go through each of these one by one. I really hope that nobody was planning on Jim and Pam and isn't just, furiously crossing it out now.
Quietly.
But, yeah.
Why would you go with Jim and Pam when you could pick Mike and Jan?
The Bradys?
Have you never seen the Brady Bunch movie or the Brady Bunch sequel?
No.
Oh, you mean Jan and Michael?
Yes.
That's
okay.
But it doesn't rhyme quite as well, so I rephrased it.
I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. So let's go ahead and I want to go through each of our choices, go into a little bit about, delve into their relationship, tell us how the characters met, what their love lives were like before they met, and where it goes, and why it is that you enjoy it so much. Let's go ahead. Emily, can you tell me about the relationship that you chose?
Okay. So, back in the 90s, there was this girl who was, she was working at a bridal shop in Flushing, Queens. Right? She was in this relationship, but then her boyfriend kicked her out. It was one of those, like, really crushing scenes, and, like, she kind of was just like, what was she to do? Where was she to go? I chose, Fran Fine and Maxwell Sheffield.
Unbelievable.
Oh,
Oh my gosh! How did I not see that coming?
that's what I'm saying. It's like, I totally knew that you guys would be like, oh, I'm not surprised, but
I feel
also,
so dumb
how did
for
I
not knowing.
That is exactly it. Yeah.
I'm so dumb. Of course she picked the nanny.
Basically, if you've never seen The Nanny, you're ridiculous, and we need to talk. Listeners, I can't get into that right now. But basically, The Nanny tells the story of this girl who, in an attempt to, find a career and get back on her feet after she's just broken up with a guy and gotten kicked out, she decides to go sell makeup door to door, and she ends up at the house of this really rich man who he's a Broadway producer, and he has these 3 beautiful children, a teenager, a preteen, and a younger kid.
He's a Broadway producer, but
she ends up
somehow
calling him
straight. I think that's important to know. Anyway.
True. Anyway, she comes and sells makeup, but then she ends up helping out these kids and falling in love with them, and so she gets hired on as the nanny.
That's why it's called the nanny.
And we see... Imagine. And we see from the very beginning this budding relationship that Fran and Maxwell have, where, because I mean, they're both really obviously good-looking people. She's like very good-looking, that kind of obvious, like doesn't really fit in his world kind of good-looking. If you don't think that Fran Drescher is attractive, get out my
on
like,
mute.
don't even start with me. No, seriously, she's gorgeous. Anyway, so they're obviously very attracted to each other, and they have a lot of these moments of sexual tension throughout the series that's just, like, super delicious, and it makes you want more because you're like, man, I have to see this happen, I have to see this happen, I have to see this happen. And they give you little bits and pieces of where something's going to happen, and then they kind of take it back. And it's just a really good... It gets annoying a little bit, but there's, I think, a pretty nice balance of enough of that before they actually do end up together. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen this show. Again, I'm disappointed in you. Do it anyway. They're just one of my favorite relationships because they have really good chemistry, right? Which is very important to me as far as, like, romantic chemistry. But they also know how to, like, make fun of each other and tease each other in a way that's generally not too abrasive. You know what I mean? And they both know how to own up to their dumb stuff. And it's very 90s and very cheesy.
What is it that
it
pushes them over the edge?
I love it.
From being in an employer-employee relationship to something more?
What do you mean?
At some
like
point,
a
like,
specific
yeah,
instance
there's
in which that
flirtation and
happens,
stuff, I'm
or?
sure, the whole time. I've not seen the show.
Okay, well, I think one of the big catalysts leading into that is at one point, Fran... again, they've had this back and forth for a long time, but Fran dates Maxwell's brother. And I think that's a big indicator for him that, like, whoa, I'm sorry, you're supposed to end up with me, right? I think that's a big event that kind of leads up to it. And of course the kids love her, so there's that added benefit. And he has a couple scenes where he, like, it's like he's almost fighting his feelings, but then he has this vision of his wife who's passed, and she's like, basically she tells him, you're being an idiot. This is obviously the person for you.
Now, do they have, like, a Who's the
mean?
Boss / every single sitcom ever moment when they accidentally, like, run into each other naked? Here we go.
Okay. Okay, so there's lots of episodes. There's one episode in particular where Fran accidentally, like, runs into him, he's in the shower or something, and she thinks it, I don't know. Anyway, that's one thing. And then there's another episode where he has to have some kind of a surgery, and for some reason, I don't remember what circumstances led into it, but the doctors assume she's a nurse and tells her to shave him for surgery, right? And so she's going to, like, shave his face and gets the shaving cream on his face, and he's like, no, you have to shave him for surgery.
Downstairs.
Shaving all
as
the,
it goes.
downstairs
Manscaping.
parts. In case People don't understand. Yeah, manscaping. And there's this scene where she takes a peek and she's like, oh, okay. But then she decides I shouldn't be looking, and so she just like starts randomly spraying the shaving cream down there and just like shake. Oh, it's so funny. I'm gonna have to find a clip for you and send it to you. It's so funny. Oh my gosh, this show is so good, you guys. But like I said, their relationship is like bread and butter. It's so good.
Awesome. Yeah, it really is a choice from you, Emily, that I should have expected, but I didn't. So I
feel so dumb for not seeing.
I'm happy to have surprised you. Well, there were a lot of other ones that I considered that may be discussed. I don't know. If not, if we have a second, we can talk about.
Yeah, I think that we can do another last call like we did with the 2018. Even though I don't have a list of 500 things like I did for that episode, but yeah. All right, John.
I had a hard time with this one because I was trying to go through like good examples that were more than just the average, the normal. Like my thing that bothers me in media is we don't see a lot of the time. We don't see a lot beyond the meet cute. We get a great story of how they met, and then it just assumes that everything goes well after that. Anybody can meet somebody and have a good 24 hours with them, but what are you going to do when both of you have horrible food poisoning and you're just puking your guts out? Or you still want to be with that person at that point, after they've puked on your dog or something? So
yeah.
I went through a bunch of different relationships and tried to think of some good ones, and finally settled on one. The rejects, Fred and Wilma Flintstone. That's just not believable. That's just. Lucy and Ricky Ricardo, hats off to them for making it work. A Cuban immigrant, and I want to be star of stage and screen. Bob and Linda Belcher, they're just great. They just make it work, and they have all the trouble in the world, and I love you all, but you're terrible. I think it's great that Mickey and Minnie have been together as long as they have, though never officially married.
Yeah.
But their voice actors did get married in real life. A little bit of trivia.
Living in sin.
Yes, there was a great couple that have been together since ¡83, just longer than I've been alive. That's Mario and Princess Peach. That's pretty impressive. I almost.
I don't know about their relationship.
She's kind of
it's too complicated for me.
Always needing him to save her from a big turtle dragon. Yeah, that's.
I don't know. Something tells me that Pauline is going to come back.
I think that's the game that they play.
Just ruin that whole thing.
I almost went with Danny Ocean and Rusty Ryan, just talking about their partnership and how they finish each other's sentences and they just really help each other out. Turk and JD from Scrubs,
cute.
Of course.
Oh my gosh!
But I wanted to talk about my favorite, Elmer Fudd and Bugs Bunny anytime he dresses up like a girl. So, Bugs is able to get Elmer Fudd to overcome his hatred.
So this is your serious choice?
No, it's not my serious choice. Are you kidding me? Come on.
Okay.
That's a waste of a bit.
Okay.
No, my serious choice is Michael Squidman Pelodorus and Wendy Peppercorn. From Sandlot. No, that's not my real choice. No, that's not my real choice. Squints, seriously?
Do you realize that as you're doing this, I'm trying to take notes, and so I keep on starting to type out all these different things, and then backspace, 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 type, backspace, backspace, backspace.
Oh
so when you're ready to get down to business, John,
I saw
is what
a
he's
movie
saying.
at Sundance called
Lay
The
it
Big
out for
Sick.
him.
Oh,
And I'm going to talk about.
Yes.
I
didn't like
liked that
movie?
movie, and I did not like that movie at the same time.
Oh.
No, I liked
Well, let's
it, and
cover
I
the
didn't
good
like it. I don't. It's.
Let's cover the good stuff.
I feel like I
and
need
then
more
we can
time
get into
with it.
How you're wrong. Kumail Nanjiani and Emily Gordon are real people, so that's a plus because it's a real story.
Yeah.
The last name has been changed, so Emily Gardner in the movie, and her parents' relationship in the movie is a bit different. They added that for a bit of, to make it more interesting as a movie. But Kumail Nanjiani is from Pakistan. They immigrated a long time ago when he was a kid, and is trying to become a stand-up. He works as an Uber driver and dates a lot of girls, but also he is constantly being set up kind of on these little, when he goes to visit his family, he's, meeting. Everyone's seen the movie, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Steven, you've seen it too?
Yeah.
Steven?
I actually have not.
Oh,
Cool.
you love it.
I think I might spoil it here, just in talking about it.
Go ahead. I don't mind. If the movie's good, it'll hold up.
Spoilers. Knowing who wrote it, the fact that it's a married couple that wrote it, spoiler alert, there you go. But the expectation of Kumail's family was that he's going to have an arranged marriage with a Pakistani girl. And that's just how it is. That's their culture, that's their faith, and that's, he has a box full of it's resumes that these women bring him with all their likes and dislikes, and they've been told, stuff about him, and all of them try to, show some interest in X-Files because he loves the X-Files, and some of them call him out on it. They're like, I watched a whole bunch of X-Files and it wasn't even that good. And he's like, but that's my favorite. Anyway, he is not really sure of his faith. He's not really sure if he wants to do this arranged marriage thing, but he loves his family. He doesn't want to lose them. Well, then he meets Emily. She heckles him at a comedy show, and they're joking back and forth, and they get together, they spend some time together, and get into a relationship. And the movie, she finds out that he still kind of has the expectation of having an arranged marriage at some point, and she wants, reasonably, like, what the heck? What, like, do we have something or not? Like, are you still, like, holding out? And he's like, well, I can't lose my family. I don't feel the same way as them, but I also can't just completely shut them out. And so they're broken up for a bit, and then he gets a call that Emily's in the hospital, and she has this life-threatening illness, this crazy random illness, and so he goes there, and to save her life, she has to be put into a medically induced coma. And the doctor says, you're her husband, right? We have to have permission from someone to put her into this medically induced coma. And he's like, I don't know. The doctor insists, like, so you're her husband, right? And so he signs the paperwork because it's what's going to save her life. And then the rest of the movie, it's him dealing with her parents who have flown in to be with her while she's in this coma, and right after they've broken up, and she's really close to her parents, and so it's extremely awkward, and he has to, he doesn't want to leave her, but he's also in this difficult situation, dealing with, kind of in-laws, not really, and it's different from other relationships that I've seen. I personally don't know anyone who's been through an arranged marriage. That whole side of seeing, his culture is different and enlightening to me, and very interesting, and really portrayed well. I mean, he's playing himself, but really interesting to see how difficult of a situation that is if you aren't 100% on board. What do you have to go with? And then he finds this great girl, and they click really well, and so that they had a great meet cute. It's a believable relationship that you see them together. You see that they do different things together and still enjoy each other's company. There are nice shots of them just sitting on the couch reading, and they're both able to sit in silence. That doesn't have to always be something going on. Little things that you see, this is a good couple, and then he messes it up because of what he was holding back from her. Well, then she comes out of the coma. She's still mad at him, even though he's won over her parents, who are played by Holly Hunter and Ray Romano, and it might be the best performance.
And Ray Romano.
I don't care about Everybody Loves Raymond, but it was on forever, so obviously it's a successful show. Holy crap!
Holly Hunter's the way better portion.
So good.
Oh, she's great too.
So good.
I love Holly Hunter so much.
But I was just surprised with Ray Romano. I was like, that's a really good performance, and I didn't expect. But dude's got chops, and I should not count him out of stuff. But anyway, she's mad at him. Of course she is, because when she went into her coma, she was woke up, and she still is in that same mindset. She's like, I don't want to see you. Get out of here. I want to be with my parents. Where are my parents? So he decides he's got to move for his career. He's got to move to New York. He's going to leave. They're in Chicago. He's going to become a stand-up there, move with some friends, and she comes to see him in New York, and kind of they have a repeat of their same meet cute where she heckles him, and then we see wedding photos of the real couple and how things worked out and how his family came around, because they were, his mom all but disowned him once she found out that he had an American girlfriend. who didn't share their culture or faith, and it's a really interesting story, and it's really a funny movie. It's so funny, and it just felt really honest, and it didn't feel contrived. It felt believable, and we get too many romantic comedies. You can just oh, this girl pines after this guy, she wants him so bad, but she something happens and she has a friend who she confides in, and oh wait, maybe he was the one all along, and put her in a big city, and she works at a publishing company, and that's literally every romantic comedy just piece of crap out there. So this was a refreshing change of pace.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I loved how realistic it seemed. Like that part you were talking about where she wakes up from her coma. He's had this really transformative experience, pretty much, about everything that's gone on. When she wakes up, I mean, she's been out for
a few months, yeah.
A few months at that
while.
point? Yeah. Right, she's been out for a while, and he's, like, ready to, like, make it work and be a better person,
in love with
and
her.
blah, 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 blah. And she's like, dude,
Yeah.
I was mad at you, like, what was 5 minutes ago to me.
Yeah.
Get out of my hospital
Yeah.
room. You know what I mean? Like, that moment, the realism of that moment,
Yeah.
I so
So
appreciated.
She's fantastic.
I also love Zoe Kazan and Holly Hunter. I just love her. I love both of those ladies. This is a pretty good cast,
Kumail,
but I do love.
He's amazing.
And like, he's
I don't
hilarious,
love him that
but
much,
also
to be
like,
really honest. But
seeing his dramatic side in this was really rewarding to see. Like,
it was definitely
yeah.
a good change
Yeah.
of pace.
But I
from
mean,
the other stuff that I've seen
my
him
gosh,
in, for
when he's
sure.
in the drive-through arguing with that kid after he's had like a horrible time, and he's like, "I just want 4 slices of cheese on my burger," and he's like, "Sir, we can't do that." It's like, "Who's we? It's just you and me, man." Like, it's just a riot. Just this whole struggle of like, he's just trying to have some comfort from this poor kid. Is like, I don't know what to tell you. Just
Oh, it's so good.
But I thought that was, I really did have a hard time trying to pick a relationship that, meant something to me in movies that, wasn't, you change out the characters and it's the same story over and over again. By the way, like, I love Romeo and Juliet.
Sure.
I was in Romeo and Juliet in high school. Like, Shakespeare, great, yeah, but like, that's like, we romanticize like young love, and like, if they'd spent any time together, I don't know if it would have worked.
Yeah.
They met, they got married, they died. Like
I
that,
often think about,
left
like-
it at that. Yeah, so
Right. Well, it's like, have you thought back about the relationships you had when you were
Not
a
without
teenager?
shivering.
Like, oh,
No,
want to go back to those? No.
Oh my gosh.
Like, ugh. No.
Yeah.
No. Absolutely not. I love all those people that I shared beautiful, wonderful times with. I love them dearly.
You know, the wonderful thing about Facebook is that it allows you to realize the good choices that you have made in life.
no,
Brady, you liar! There is no such thing as a wonderful thing about Facebook.
I like simultaneously want everyone that I used to know to forget everything about me before a certain date, and I also like, it's like, hey, yeah, we went to middle school together. Yeah, can you just forget like everything I ever said?
You just forget
gosh,
what I looked
yeah.
like, what I said,
And then like I
anything
look
that
at
did
that, and I
ever,
also want to just
period.
like hug
Yeah.
my wife and be like, "Don't ever leave me." I don't know how I tricked you, but it's working. So, oh well, thank you.
You didn't trick her.
I
You're a
totally
great guy.
did trick her
Aw.
though, but okay.
That was a sweet moment.
You did land a babe, though. All of the gentlemen on this podcast that are currently present landed
Against
hot
all
babes,
odds in
faux
some of our
show.
in some of our circumstances. Ooh.
No,
Especially since some of us were actively working against the whole prospect of landing a babe.
Yeah, here's the thing, too. I was thinking about this the other day, Stephen, when you were talking about how, like, I don't even know if I want to get married ever. I just want to adopt a child. I was thinking
Words I have
about that
said
moment
on multiple
not that long
occasions.
ago.
I might have said them to my fiance.
Right.
Stephen, I've thought about this. In becoming a father,
just
I've
interesting
thought
to see where you've
about
come
that
from.
situation, because we have that situation in pop culture, and I cannot understand how it works in the real world. The man with the yellow hat has a monkey. and has a very active social life. That monkey screws up everything that he gets into constantly, and this community of people have to go along with his insane choice to have a monkey at all of their get-together. It's like, oh, Ted's coming over. Is he bringing George? You know he's bringing George. Oh, geez. Well, hide the plates and hide all of the fancy dishes because that monkey is going to just wreck our whole house. but he's going to save the dog in the well somehow, and just it's going to be made up for. Meanwhile, we still have all the broken plates. Okay, I'm glad that Lassie is out of the well, but we still have the broken the plates on. Yeah. So don't be the guy who adopts a monkey. I'm glad that you found a good fiance and things are going to work out. But like, whoo! Sorry, I have a 2-year-old, and so I question things like, oh man.
It's interesting that you would compare the experiences of a monkey to your 2-year-old because
it's accurate.
Wise, maybe they're the same.
It's accurate.
If she could climb as well as George, I would be the man in the yellow hat.
Yeah.
All right, Steven, what did you choose?
So we've had some interesting discussion so far about failed romances or romances in spite of crazy odds, or the super charming romantic tales that we see in a lot of sitcoms. And I'm sitting here like,
yeah,
I picked cartoon characters.
Yeah, you did.
That's okay. I almost picked cartoon.
No lie, one of my favorite one of my favorite couples in all of fiction is Superman and Lois Lane.
Oh, jeez.
Okay.
Freaking love this couple. And in large part, I actually think it's because of how much I love Lois Lane as a character.
Oh, totally.
And if you take them as, a historical artifact, I admit that this pairing kind of flies in the face of some of the things that I was saying earlier. Because throughout most of the Silver Age of comics, the dynamic was Lois really wanted to marry Superman, and Superman was just leading her on. She dedicated so much time to learn about him, who he was, and he was clearly not interested, and she did not let it go, and Superman was like, well, maybe I'll just use a beam on her that makes her really fat for a while, and then neg on her appearance for a while, because I'm a jerk.
And there's enough Superman history. That's a real story you're just talking about, correct?
Oh, 100%.
Oh, there is... Brady told me about this site.
That's
I think Brady told me
insane.
about this site.
Superdickory.com.
Yep.
It is hysterical.
That is a thing. That is a thing that exists. And it's all about how terrible Superman was in general during the Silver Age of comics.
Oh yeah, it's great.
As you get away from the Silver Age and move into the Bronze Age and the Modern Age, I don't know if that's actually
I don't
what
think
we're calling
that,
it. The Modern Age of comics.
Bronze Age, is that a real name too?
Yeah, Bronze Age is real. That's when we start getting into 80s comics.
Okay.
Around the time of, I want to say Crisis on Infinite Earths. I think it actually starts before that. But once you start to see more contemporary takes on the Superman-Lois dynamic, you start to see some really great things happening. In particular, what I like about them is that, Superman is constantly criticized as a character who is difficult to write for. He's boring, he's uninteresting, he's too powerful for his own good, he's unrelatable. That's a sentiment that I've heard expressed on this podcast from certain parties who will remain unnamed.
Brady's going to have to add kryptonite into every story, but that's the usual gripe I hear.
Right, which I think is... Frankly, I think it's a defeatist attitude, and I think you can tell it's a defeatist attitude by the way the characters in the story react to it. Because you get Lois Lane, who sees that and says, yeah, whatever, I'm going to make that man mine. And, she does. And that's the thing that I think is interesting. Superman has all of this physical power, all of these, supernatural abilities. Lois is just a really good reporter. And somehow she manages to leverage that into being a partner to Superman. yes, you get all the jokes. There's this great bit in the Superman animated series where hijackers have taken over a plane, and one of them looks over, and he sees Lois sitting in the passenger seat. He's like, wait, aren't you Lois Lane? And she says, yep. And the hijacker says, oh crap, and then Superman shows up.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what happens when you put Lois in danger.
That.
Yeah.
Nobody puts Lois in the corner.
It's true.
You know, one thing
Of the
that I
hijacked
love about the relationship between Lois and Clark is you take Clark Kent, you know, the mild-mannered reporter, and then you have Lois, who is not in any way, shape, or form mild-mannered.
Mm-hmm.
She has all of the confidence in the world in her job. And I love seeing just that dynamic of Clark Kent, you know, not having that confidence, even though he's freaking Superman, and Lois, who is 120 freaking percent confidence.
Yeah, and that's a particular element that I think is overlooked. That, and it's an aspect of their relationship that I'm hoping to emulate in my own. Like, in my relationship, the fiance is the Superman.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm no slouch, but she's amazing. And so it's like, how do I take that, and rather than being overwhelmed by that example, how do I live up to that? How do I rise to her level? I'm not going to be as good as she is in the professional sphere, at least in her professional sphere. She's very highly educated and very, very successful in her field. But I can still, like, be as excellent as I can be in my own field. And that's something, again, I think it's a misunderstood aspect of Clark Kent that, you know, Clark Kent is actually pretty good at his job. He's a good journalist. Lois Lane is amazing. Lois Lane will climb into an attacking alien robot to have it take her back to the mad scientist that created it, just so she can get the inside scoop on a story. Which, by the way, that happens in this really fantastic animated short from, I think, the 40s. There was a really good Superman cartoon back then. And is it Max Fleischer? John, you probably know this. Yeah, the Fleischer Superman cartoons are
which
brilliant.
is what they tried to emulate for Batman in the animated series, which is our modern example.
Right.
Oh.
And, you know, stemming from the Batman animated series, we have the Superman animated series. Which doesn't draw as direct inspiration from the Fleischer cartoons as the Batman cartoon did, but it still has, like, those are probably my favorite portrayals of Lois, are those two cartoons.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, our live-action portrayals of Lois haven't been great.
You know, I was just going to say, I watched the old Superman recently. It holds up, except you don't see Superman for like 35 minutes. Might have been like 37 minutes. It is slow in the beginning. Now, I think if you watched 1 and 2 back-to-back, that might help, because they filmed them back-to-back like that. And the beginning 40 minutes is a lot of setting the stage, and you get Zod, and you get Jor-El, and that kind of stuff. But, like, man, the pacing. But then, like, and the ending is kind of weird, because he, like, reverses time to save Lois a little. It's... Yeah, but when it's good,
Right,
it's great.
kinda...
So, but
Yeah,
I would say
I'll-
there's probably a better way to portray Lois Lane, but like in its time,
Yeah.
What's her name? I just blanked. Yeah,
Margot
Kidder.
Yeah,
What about Lois Lane in a bathtub in the middle of a living room for no reason with Clark Kent?
I'm going to say they squandered Amy Adams, who is probably the best, one of the best, at the very least, living actors. Just, she's so good.
Oh,
she's so good,
totally
and she has
agree.
nothing to do in those movies. I would actually argue that Superman Returns has a similar problem. The actress isn't bad,
but
I know that I'm probably in the minority there. That's what's her name, isn't it?
Yeah, it sure is.
Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on her name.
I don't even know what her name.
She
did a
fine job with nothing to do.
Kate Bosworth?
Exactly, with nothing to do. Yeah, Bosworth.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah, nothing to do.
That movie was like, it looked nice, you know. I think like all the pieces were there, and then someone took that chessboard and started playing Parcheesi or something with it, and it's like, no, that's not how. Oh, it could have been so much better.
My feeling is this: say what you want about any of the different interpretations of Lois on screen, right? At least it's not Kristen Cruick. As long as that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, gosh.
I thought we were going to get into Terry Hatcher territory.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Which I haven't seen. As a kid, I loved Lois and Clark.
Because we didn't have any other live action, like, at the time. I'm trying to think, do we have other live action superhero shows?
Well, they have, like, the really, really, really bad...
The Flash.
That was before.
Yeah.
That was before, but, I mean, not that much before.
I don't think they overlapped.
You had other weird shows like Mantis, and I think that might have been around the time of the first live-action Tick. It might be a little before it.
The first, you mean
Dark
anyway,
Angel?
first live action Tick like Patrick Warburton? That was way before.
Yeah. Lois and Clark?
I'm gonna pull
Really?
up the internet and get facts on my sides.
He's gonna
Well,
pull
while
up the
you're doing that, I want
interwebs.
to call out one other aspect of the Lois and Clark relationship that I really like, and this is a bizarre one because comics. So, back in 2011, they rebooted the entire DC continuity, and at the time, Lois and Clark were married, and I know that they had a child for a while, and then the child disappeared for a bit, and I don't know if he came back or whatever, but in my head, part of this reboot was, oh crap, they're doing a Spider-Man One More Day, they're just trying to get rid of the married relationship so they can have the swinging single superhero again, which is a trope that needs to go away. And the interesting thing is, when they brought Lois and Clark back in this new continuity, they didn't hook them up romantically. Lois had another relationship. Clark wound up as Superman dating Wonder Woman, which is a mistake, but they did it anyway. And then things get weird, and they kill off Superman, and they kill off Lois Lane, but somebody is still running around fighting crimes as Superman. And it turns out that the Superman from the pre-reboot continuity is actually still around fighting crime. And he is here with the pre-reboot continuity Lois Lane, and they have a kid. And so, it's a very roundabout way of saying Lois and Clark still have a solid relationship, and it's a family relationship in the comic books. So it's no longer just, husband and wife or boyfriend, girlfriend. Now it's husband, wife, father, mother, child, because they do have a Superboy that they're raising as well. And that's something, and maybe this is just me talking because I'm, like 6 weeks out from my own wedding, but I want to see more fantastical takes on family. And Lois and Clark have a family, and I think that's wonderful.
Awesome. I love it.
Lois and Clark, the TV show, was 93 to 97. The Tick, starring Patrick Warburton, 2001 to 2002. In your face. Now, the animated...
You're kidding
the animated Tick was 94 to 97, so maybe you were, mashing them together,
Yeah.
Probably. I also misunderstood you and thought you said that the Tick predated.
Oh,
Lois and
no.
Clark.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
I see. Yeah, no. No.
Anyway, I would actually be interested in revisiting Lois and Clark because my tolerance for superhero cheese has gone way the heck up since I finally got over the dark obsession that came with the Christopher Nolan movies.
I think it's too much. I'm remembering moments from it, and it's... Ugh. I remember there was, a scene where there was, a couple that were hackers, and, the dialogue was so bad. My family who, between 4 adults, my parents, my aunt and uncle, there was, 1 or 2, word processor computers. They were still making fun of the, tech dialogue. They're like, wow, this is a really good job, So, yeah, maybe I'm remembering, that and painting the whole series as bad, but I like Terry Hatcher.
Yeah, Bond girl.
All right, so my choice. I went through a lot of different things, and I actually sent what I thought would be my choice to you guys the night that we recorded our last episode, and we decided that this would be our next episode. And then I went back and forth, with some other ideas. I would really like to explore Fry and Leela. I'd really like to explore a few other relationships, even within the show Parks and Recreation, where I have my choice. There are relationships there that could have really made it as well. April and Andy, that would be an awesome relationship to really dive into. But the more that I've been rewatching Parks and Recreation, the more that I just love the relationship between Leslie Knope and Ben Wyatt.
I'll sum up Andy and April in one sentence. Imagine if a puppy, and a cat got together.
And pissed all over themselves.
Yep.
And loved every minute of it. And so just as a side note about April and Andy, the thing that I love about their relationship is there's never any question once they are really together that they are together forever. Like, that's just... They are dedicated to each other, and I love that. I absolutely love that. But that's also what I love about Ben and Leslie. Even though Leslie Knope is not my favorite character in Parks and Recreation, by far, she's kind of lower tier for me personally. But the way that she is with Ben, the way that their relationship started, because here you have a workplace comedy, and the workplace happens to also be government. So, you have all these regulations, you have all these things that can stop, a romantic relationship from happening. And, of course, at the time, Ben and Leslie started developing feelings for each other, but, there was this whole taboo thing, and they just thought that it was Chris Traeger's rule that, no, you guys, you can't date... You can't date this part, you can't date someone who oversees your department. But, of course, it ended up being a much bigger deal when they finally went public that they were dating, and they ended up having an ethics hearing, and the ethics hearing got to the point where basically Leslie at the time was trying to run for city council, and this controversy would just destroy her, and she would lose her job. And instead of her losing her job, Ben just gave up his job that he loved doing and that he had been doing for years, and he had been doing to show how he overcame the mistakes that he made when he was a mayor at 18 years old in his hometown. And Ice Town. And he gave that up for Leslie, and he did it at a time when, it was an ethics hearing, which means that the entire thing was documented, and he showed his love for Leslie during that, and Leslie actually got to go back and hear exactly what Ben said behind closed doors. And it was a great moment. And from that point on, they would have sometimes professional disagreements, but they were a united front with each other. They respected, loved each other from that moment through the end of the series. There was never a second of doubt, and they were dedicated to each other. And I loved that. And that's why their relationship really stuck out to me.
Yeah, because they took, something that's familiar, two people, almost hate each other at first and don't get along at all. And it is believable that, they would end up together. They have quirky nerdiness about them that, she doesn't understand Game of Thrones, and he's that kind of nerd, but she still supports him and wants she arranges for the Iron Throne to be in his office, weird things like that.
Yeah.
Ben pretends to understand the appeal behind little Sebastian, He's just a horse. Ben,
He is kind of a small horse.
Ben, he whinnied. Oh, I heard it. I don't know.
Oh, it's so good.
I really thought you were going to say purred happily there, so I'm glad you went with Ben and Leslie. That's great.
Oh, gosh. Purred happily. It's great. And, you know, something that's interesting about Purred happily is there's one time, because, you know, I'm always on IMDb and seeing what other people have been in, and the actor who plays Purred happily has played reporters in seriously like 40 shows.
Well, the Scrubs,
it's crazy when you
some
look at
pilot, I think it might have been like when 24 came back, you know, Jack Bauer's at the hospital, and Dr. Beardface from Scrubs was in the background as an extra, like, doctor on the show. And, like, all Scrubs fans were watching that, and were like, hey, wait a second, Beardface is in it! And so I had to, like, confirm online that, yep, it really was him. So.
Oh, that's amazing. Anyway, do we have any last calls? Anyone that you guys want to bring up that we have not brought up?
One thing, when we were talking about bad relationships, I thought about this. I went to Sundance last weekend. I only saw one movie this year. And I saw Midnight Show, the Tower Theater. Not the best theater. And I was a little worried because it was a midnight show, which means that, like, content-wise, it might have been questionable. It was, but I'm going to justify in a minute. I saw a movie called Little Monsters with Lupita Nyong'o and Josh Gad. And
what?
Holy crap.
That's a weird
Yeah, that's what I thought too. It was...
Was it good?
I cannot in good conscience recommend this movie to, like, good people. Because it was... The language in it was just horribly, horribly foul. And so funny. Oh my gosh. The premise is Dave, it's set in Australia. Dave, and what I'm bringing it up now for is the opening. It's so well done. It's a series of shots. The camera is constantly circling this couple that are arguing. They're arguing at a dinner party with friends, and their friends are really awkward. They're arguing at the grocery store. They're arguing in their apartment. They're arguing in a cab, in the car, everywhere that they're together, and it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse and worse, and like until finally they break up. We see all of these fights that lead up to their breakup. Dave is a screw up. He's a musician. His girlfriend is a successful realtor, and we see them like this dinner party. They're having this huge argument in the middle of a restaurant, and as you know, he storms off, or she's crying at the end of the table, and the waiter is approaching with a birthday cake behind her, and one of the friends at the table just waves them off like, no, not anymore. And it's so well done and so funny. Dave ends up crashing with his sister, who has a little 5-year-old boy, who has tons of allergies, and he's kind of an odd kid, you know, that gets bullied at school. His sister says, if you're going to stay here, you got to contribute, you know, take my son to school. Takes him to school, meets Lupita Nyong'o, who's his teacher, and, like, instantly is smitten because it's Lupita Nyong'o. And so he volunteers
Obviously.
to be a chaperone on a field trip to a petting zoo. And this kid is obsessed with a TV show, like a sing-along Barney type show with a personality on it. It's Josh Gad. He's this guy in this suit. He has a little bunny rabbit puppet friend, you know, and it's all great. Well, they go to this petting zoo. Next door to the petting zoo is a U.S. Army base where an experiment with zombies has gone wrong, and zombies get loose in the petting zoo. And it is
Oh my
hysterical
gosh.
and so touching at the same time. Lupita Nyong'o does a great job because she's a teacher who cares about her students. She's trying to keep them safe, trying to have them not freak out. Meanwhile, Josh Gad is there. This character is on a tour of Australia, and he is freaking out and turns out to be an awful, terrible person. Locks them out of the only safe building left in the park, and is like, "No, screw you guys, get out of here!" And the kids sneak in, and he's just terrible. Anyway, so they have to survive a zombie apocalypse, and Dave, you know, learns more about himself and steps up as a man and saves, you know, these kids and stuff. Filthy, rotten, horrible, awful dialogue that is so funny. It was like all of the laughs in this room were just ripped out of me against my will because it was shocking and horrible, and it was just a riot. And, like, I've never had a crowd at a movie react as hard as, because people were just dying. It was so funny. Anyway, they did a really good job in the beginning of the movie showing a bad relationship. But that's also something I've been into and that just recently came out. And, yeah, Little Monsters. Hulu already bought it, so.
Very nice. All right, anybody else? Last calls.
Oh, yeah. Just a couple from the other side of the Pacific Ocean. Got to talk about my favorite anime couples.
Woo!
Gotcha.
So, I've mentioned two of these couples on this podcast before, actually. Takeyo and Yamato from Ore Monogatari, also known as My Love Story. This is a story where you have a giant, brutish-looking high school student who is kind-hearted, but he is so physically intimidating that everybody thinks that he's a very scary guy. Just falls head over heels in love with this tiny, super feminine, super sweet girl who just likes to bake stuff, and she's just this really cute little bundle of energy, and they wind up making one of the most adorable couples that I have ever read. His anguished confession of love, like, they admit that they love each other by the end of the first volume, and there are, I believe, 10 volumes of the manga, and then the anime covers, I think, about half of that. And it's just them being an adorable couple the whole time. This is maybe a weird ship, but I really like the relationship between Shoya and Shoko in A Silent Voice, which I've also mentioned on the podcast before. This was one of my favorite things of, I think, 2016. This is a story of a young boy who bullies a girl who is deaf, and he bullies her because she is deaf. And him bullying her basically ruins his life as well as hers. And as he grows up, he gets to a point where he's so despondent that he feels like he has to end everything. But before he does, he goes out of his way to apologize to her. And that chance reconnection helps them to confront the trauma that they both went through as a result of his actions. And it's their relationship and her forgiveness of him is just this very sweet sort of thing that also kind of explores some of the internalized guilt and hatred that she feels towards herself. The movie was excellent. I watched it with Aldo, who used to be on the show with us here, and afterwards Aldo turned to me and said, I did not expect this to be one of my new favorite movies of all time. It was a really touching movie, and their relationship, outside of the romantic context, which is really just subtext in a lot of ways, even though there is very much this anguished declaration of love in that show as well, which is heartbreaking, and I don't think I want to get into it too much here. That relationship really explores ideas of love and redemption in a way that I don't see in a whole lot of media. And then I want to mention, lastly, Roy Mustang and Riza Hawkeye from Full Metal Alchemist. Not because they're actually a very strong romantic couple, because they're not really. I ship them, though, and I need to say that.
Because they're both amazing.
They are the best characters. Riza Hawkeye is my favorite character in Full Metal Alchemist. And Roy Mustang is my second favorite character in Full Metal Alchemist. They're great. I love them.
So this is the time that, once again, we say, John, are you listening?
What do you want?
You need to watch Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
I just, I need an anime curator. I know we did a whole episode about it, but, apart from, what...
we have curated it for you.
Just...
Full Metal Alchemist
Do
Brotherhood.
I need to watch Full Metal Alchemist's, Part 1 plain?
No.
Yogurt, plain vanilla yogurt alchemist first? Before...
Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is a retelling of Full Metal Alchemist with the conclusion to the story. So you watch one or the other. It's difficult to watch both, from what I understand.
Is it because they're anime?
And
I bet it's because they're anime.
Well, it's because they tread a lot of the same ground. They go over the same
It's
ground.
like a parallel kind of story.
We'll get into it offline, I think. There's a lot to it.
Yeah, but you should just do Brotherhood. Don't worry about the original one. Brotherhood also has better. It has better animation. It has better acting. It has better music. It's bad.
It
is.
I feel like I've been treated to some excellent animation lately. I don't know if you guys have heard about this little Spider-Man joint. Oh, boy howdy.
Emily, do you have any last calls?
Yes, we don't need to get into them, but I just wanted to mention them. Brennan and Booth from Bones. I love them.
Yeah.
Lorelai
My
and Luke
wife
from
said,
the
"Hey, you
Gilmore
should do
Girls.
Lorelai and Luke," and I don't know if I've ever given someone as withering a stare as I did. And she said, and I was like really touched that she took an interest in, and she was like, "Yeah, because you did that other episode," and I was like, "Oh, I don't want to kill you anymore." So.
You know you love it. And then Roseanne and Dan from Roseanne,
Okay.
but like the original series. They remind me of my parents. That's probably why I love them. You and Miki from Marmalade Boy. It's a very complicated relationship. But
As one would expect from
enjoy it.
an anime.
you are correct. And then my last one was Mike
Yes!
and Eleven from Stranger Things.
Oh my gosh.
I can tell you why.
I didn't think of it until very last.
I'm so mad at you right now. I love 11. I love Mike. I hate them as a
for
couple.
crying out loud.
And I am mad at myself. I am mad at myself for
Why?
having strong opinions about the romantic relationships of prepubescent fictional characters. But here we are!
Here, I mean,
Why else
get
have a
but
podcast
I
at all,
think you-
Steven?
I don't know.
If we can't gripe about prepubescent fictional characters and their relationships.
Okay. Because there are post-pubescent fictional characters we could gripe about.
We don't.
Which is why I gave it a and didn't go into their
Touche.
relationship at length. I'm a
And
thinker.
that'll do it for us for this one. We hope that you've enjoyed listening to us as we get a little bit of romance in our lives. And have a wonderful day. /night / whatever you want to have.
Yeah, you
Just
have
have it. And make
Yeah.
it good.
We
Really,
love
damn it.
you.
You have a good Valentine.
Oh yeah.
Okay, Barry.
Hi.
Barry White.
This is Barry
White.
White.
Emphasis on the white.
What? Love is in the air.
Leave it alone.
Suit
I'm going to
yourself.
stop this recording
Good
now.
night.
Do it.